It's easy to miss betrayal when it's disguised as love, but when you look closer than the smiles, the scripted scenes, the church pews, and choreographed holiday dinners, you see the cracks, you hear the silences, you feel the weight of what wasn't said on camera, and suddenly, what looked like a loving marriage turns into something else entirely, a power shift, a quiet takeover, one woman rising, while the rest fall away. Welcome to TLC Sister Wives Recap. I'm David, and if you're just as stunned by what's really been happening behind the scenes, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment, because we're about to uncover the kind of truth most people miss entirely. The moment that changed everything didn't even air. It was off camera, quiet, and passed over like it didn't matter. But it did. Because Kody Brown, the same man who now clings to Robyn like she's his entire world, once called her ick. Not on camera, not to the other wives, but in the earliest moments of their relationship, that was his honest first reaction. She was a divorced woman with 3 kids, driving a minivan, living far away, and completely outside the life he was already building. He didn't see her and think soulmate. He saw her and flinched. And that tells us everything. So how did a woman who caused that reaction become the so-called center of the family? That's the real story. And the truth is, it wasn't love that brought Robyn in. It was calculation. Slowly, deliberately, Robyn didn't just join the Brown family, she replaced its heart. Christine, with her warmth, her food, her laugh, her traditions, was the soul of the family. But as the years passed, it was like watching a painting fade. Christine became less seen, less heard. Her place at the table slowly disappeared, while Robyn's chair grew bigger. Meri, already wounded by rejection and betrayal, was quietly pushed further away. When her mother died, Robyn wasn't there. When she needed comfort, Robyn was silent. Janelle, always the strong one, began to see her financial footing chipped away while Robyn stood firmly next to Cody, holding the checkbook. None of this was accidental. Robyn didn't just fall in love with Cody, she rewrote the family script. She positioned herself, scene by scene, smile by smile, as the irreplaceable one, and the others were left to either vanish or be pushed out. And all of it started with a word Cody never meant to be public, ick. And yet, somehow, she became everything he clings to. Christine had always been the light, not just to her children, but to the whole family. She was the one who hosted birthdays, cooked for holidays, made every tradition feel like home. You could feel her presence in every room, even when she wasn't speaking. She was the kind of woman who held everything together with love and laughter, until Robyn stepped in and started quietly painting over her. It began with something small, a story. Christine had shared for years how she first saw Cody at church and felt a sudden, overwhelming spark. She called it a lightning bolt, an honest, deeply personal moment that only made sense in her voice. But suddenly, long after that story had been told, Robyn started telling the exact same one. Same setting, same lightning bolt, same emotion. The only difference? This time it was her story, as if she could borrow Christine's words and somehow make them real. And that's when it started to become clear. Robyn wasn't just fitting into the family, she was studying it, replicating it, replacing it. The photos told the rest of the story. A framed memory originally of Christine and her kids with Cody, quietly altered. Christine removed. Robyn's kids, who barely knew Cody back then, added in her place. A moment that had belonged to another family now belonged to her. And it wasn't just one photo. It was birthdays, traditions, Christmas mornings. Robyn bought the biggest house in Flagstaff and immediately announced that her home was now the center of the family. She didn't ask. She declared. She positioned herself not just as another wife, but the wife. The one who'd host the holidays, organize the meals, coordinate the gatherings, the emotional anchor of a family she hadn't even been part of a few years earlier. And Christine? The woman who had made so much of it possible in the first place? She was pushed to the edge of her own life. Her stories no longer belonged to her. Her memories were being rewritten, and her place in the family, once so central, so warm, was handed to someone else without apology. It's hard to watch someone lose their identity, not all at once, but piece by piece. That's what happened to Christine. While the cameras rolled and Robyn smiled sweetly, Christine faded into the background, and somehow, no one said a word. Once Christine had been pushed aside, Robyn didn't stop. Her focus shifted, first to Janelle, then to Meri. But this wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. Robyn knew how to make it look like concern, like support. While behind the scenes, she was quietly tightening her grip on the family, one wife at a time. With Janelle, it was all about money. Janelle had always been independent. She handled her own finances, worked hard, made things run. She didn't rely on Cody for support. She built her own foundation. But Robyn found a way to chip at that. Slowly, the money stopped being communal. Cody started consulting Robyn on financial decisions and leaving the others in the dark. Loans were delayed, plans fell through. And Robyn? She always seemed to get what she wanted. She became the unofficial gatekeeper to the family's funds, while Janelle was left waiting, asking, explaining. Then there was that moment in the kitchen. Something small, but it said everything. Robyn makes Cody eggs. He doesn't like them. And instead of brushing it off, he casually says, "Ask Christine how to make them." That hurt, not just because it exposed his bias, but because it revealed the game. Robyn was trying to replace Christine and failing, but still being rewarded. Janelle saw it. We all saw it. And then came Meri. Already broken from years of emotional neglect, she was holding on to what little she had left. But when her mother passed, suddenly, tragically, she made that drive alone. No one was there, not Cody, not Robyn. She grieved in silence while the family moved on without her. Robyn could have stepped up, could have shown care. But instead, she stayed back, offering empty platitudes while Meri sank deeper into isolation. Cody made it worse. He suggested Meri move to Parowan, into her late mother's house, far from everyone, alone, as if the answer to her grief was distance, as if cutting her off was kindness. Meanwhile, Janelle began to feel the shift, too. Robyn started taking subtle jabs, questioning her decisions, acting like she knew better. It wasn't outright hostility, it was something colder, dismissive, patronizing, the kind of manipulation that makes you second-guess yourself. Cody started pulling away from Janelle too, emotionally checked out, but still clinging to the idea of unity. Until one day, that unity cracked. One wife was grieving in silence, another was losing her footing, and the one woman still at Cody's side was the one quietly making sure that no one else stayed close for long. They call it love at first sight. That's the story Robyn and Cody love to tell. Two soulmates, destined to find each other, locking eyes across a church parking lot and feeling a lightning bolt strike straight through their hearts. But the truth? It's messier. And it starts with one word Cody let slip when the cameras weren't rolling. Ick. Yes, ick. That was his first real reaction to Robyn, not fireworks, not divine connection, just a shrug and an ick. He said she looked like a soccer mom, divorced, with 3 kids, driving a minivan. Not exactly the dream woman by his own words, but that version of the story didn't last long. Once the cameras came into play, Cody's memory conveniently rewrote itself. Suddenly, Robyn was everything. The lightning bolt, the divine love, the missing piece of his life. The transformation was so complete, it was hard to tell what was real anymore. But for those of us paying attention, the cracks were always there. Robyn's backstory doesn't read like a fairy tale. She came from a broken marriage, raising 3 kids in a run-down trailer. And yet, when she entered the family, she arrived like royalty, beautifully styled, perfectly dressed, instantly adored. It was as if someone had scrubbed her history clean and handed her a script. The divorced mom in the trailer became the glowing new bride on a pedestal, all while the other wives were quietly pushed to the background. And it wasn't just a makeover, it was a strategy. Robyn didn't just want to fit into the family, she wanted to reshape it in her image. And Cody? He was ready to help her do it, because what they built wasn't real love. It was something more fragile, more desperate. It was codependency. Robyn needed to be needed, Cody needed to be worshipped. She offered endless validation, tears, compliments, emotional loyalty. And in return, he gave her authority, power, a permanent seat by his side while everyone else was left behind. Together, they created this polished image of a perfect couple, but underneath it, the relationship was built on insecurity, not affection. They clung to each other, not out of passion, but out of fear. Fear of losing control, fear of being exposed, fear that without each other, the house of cards they'd built would finally fall. And the most heartbreaking part? It worked. They convinced the world, at least for a while. Robyn became the favored wife, Cody's loyalty was no longer shared, and the rest of the family, they were cast as bitter, jealous, or disloyal, all so that Robyn and Cody could keep pretending what they had was something sacred. But behind the cameras and the carefully rehearsed lines, great love looks more like a deal. One built not on connection, but on survival. Polygamy, they say, is about equality, about balance, respect, and shared love. But with Robyn and Cody, that ideal didn't just crack, it shattered completely. What was supposed to be a family where every wife stood equal quickly turned into a stage where only one wife shined. Think about the weddings. Christine, Janelle, and Meri's weddings were simple, even humble. No grand dresses, no extravagant celebrations. Christine's dress was handmade by her mother. Janelle didn't even wear a wedding dress. Their weddings happened in the middle of lunch breaks or in quiet moments squeezed between the chaos of daily life. There was no spotlight, no cameras rushing to capture their smiles, no lavish honeymoon. Then came Robyn's wedding. Suddenly, everything changed. The dress was stunning, designer, something she dreamed of long before. The honeymoon? A full 2 weeks filled with luxury and indulgence. The cameras were there, of course, capturing every moment, and the difference was impossible to miss. It was like night and day. The other wives watched from the sidelines, quiet, invisible, like ghosts in their own family. The silence from Christine, Janelle, and Meri wasn't just about jealousy. It was about the crushing weight of being overlooked. They had sacrificed so much for the family. The early mornings, the endless cooking, the emotional labor, the struggles of raising children. Yet, when it came time for celebration and recognition, they were nowhere to be found. Robyn wasn't just the favorite because of love. She was the favorite because she played the game best. She knew how to use the cameras, how to position herself to get what she wanted. And Cody? He rewarded her for it. He gave her the spotlight, the attention, the admiration he once shared among all his wives. But this wasn't fair. It wasn't real. The emotional cost was devastating. The original wives didn't just lose their place in the family, they lost their sense of belonging. The quiet moments when they reached out for support were met with cold shoulders or silence. They weren't seen as equals. They were sidelined, their voices drowned out by Robyn's growing influence. And the final, brutal truth? Cody stopped loving them the way he once did. His affection, his attention, his validation, everything was reserved for Robyn. The 3 original wives became, in his eyes, just shadows of the past. People to be tolerated, not cherished. That kind of pain doesn't heal easily. Watching the man you loved put someone else on a pedestal, someone who replaced you, there's no easy way to describe it. It's a slow, quiet heartbreak that eats away at your soul. Robyn and Cody didn't just break the family, they broke the very idea that polygamy could be fair. This wasn't about faith or community, it was about power, favoritism, and the cruel reality that one person's rise often means another's fall. Right now, the sister wives family is nothing like the picture it once tried to paint. The cracks have become chasms. The bonds that once held them together are stretched so thin they're nearly broken. Robyn, who fought so hard to be the center, now stands isolated. The power she worked to claim feels fragile, and Cody's ego, once so inflated, is beginning to unravel. Meanwhile, Christine, Janelle, and Meri are slowly reclaiming their lives and their peace. They've stepped away from the chaos, from the endless competition, and from the constant need to prove themselves. But even as they find calm, the scars run deep. There's a quiet sadness in knowing what was lost, and a guarded hope that healing can come, even if it takes time. For years, the truth was hiding in plain sight, masked by smiles, edited scenes, and carefully crafted stories. But fans are finally starting to see through the smoke and mirrors. They're noticing the favoritism, the manipulation, and the emotional toll it took on everyone involved. This isn't just a family drama. It's a story about loyalty tested and broken, about one woman's rise built on the expense of others, and about the strength it takes to walk away. At the end of the day, it's a reminder that true loyalty isn't about control or performance. It's about respect, honesty, and the courage to heal from wounds others may never understand. Because sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought quietly, behind closed doors. And the real victory comes not from who holds the power, but from who finds the strength to reclaim their own story.